Well, hello, everyone. You are very welcome to another edition of Business Block on Mondays with myself, Miriam O'Gara. And I am absolutely delighted to have an expert in cyber protection on the show today. Very importantly, she is a woman in this business who has become a real influencer. Andrea Manning, you're very welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. It's my favorite subject. So any chance I get to talk about it, I'm there.
I can imagine. Now, I like to think of myself as a bit of a jack of all trades and knowing a little bit about everything. But I have to say, I have to attest to my shame. I do not know an awful lot about this. And I'm a woman in a small business myself. And I am really quite ignorant. And I'm just delighted to see that on this subject that I know so little about, that there are women out there who are leading the way. And that seems to have been very much part of your story. Where are you from? How did this all begin?
Oh my God, I certainly don't have a linear path into cybersecurity. I've always been, I was the first one to try the internet. I've always been a gadget person. Even as a child, I was the one who could program the video. That's how old I am. So I've always had a curious mind. And you're saying jack of all trades, and that was me. And I was so fed up with being a jack of all trades. I was like, right, I'm going to go to university and I'm going to get myself a degree. So at the age of, I don't even know, it was 47, I applied for this access course and did an access course and then applied for a full-time degree. And I found this degree called Business Information Systems, which was the best degree I could have found. It was half tech and half business. And so I sat there next to the 18-year-olds for 4 years. And, I was older than their moms, and I learned so much and everything. And when I graduated, I was like, well, this is brilliant. I've got a marketing background. I've got all this new found knowledge, just bring on the CEO job. There was nothing. I don't think anybody could understand my CV. Obviously, I was an older woman, and I never took into account how much age counts against you when you're applying for jobs. And because I didn't fit in the box. And, most CVs now actually go through an algorithm. So yes. I didn't even get a look in.
Absolutely true. Before they ever see a human being.
Yeah. And, all that diversity and inclusion stuff, so much of it is just for looks. And, there's not enough done on inclusion and diversity about age.
Yes.
So as part of my degree, I had done an internship with a startup company called One Page CRM, and that was when GDPR was coming out. So they gave me the job of GDPR because I happened to mention that if I didn't do this, I would love to have done law. And they were like, we've got the perfect job for you. And I was like, what even is GDPR? And it was awful. There wasn't very much online. It was all Article 19, Article 17. I just made no sense. I couldn't get my head around it. But
so this is General Data Protection Regulations.
Yeah, General Data Protection Regulation. And basically, it had already been in play. We had the data protection regulations anyway. This was just a bigger one, and it was, standardized across the whole of Europe. But for the first time, people stood up and took notice of it. And then there was all the scaremongering. Oh, you're going to get fined. And, oh, you have to do this. And I'm sure everybody remembers all those emails you got, the re-permissioning emails.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I need to make sense of this thing for myself so that I can explain it to other people.
Yes.
And I think that's when I realized I had this talent to take the complex and make it simple, because I am a practical person. And I just wanted somebody to say, okay, GDPR, right, get yourself a spreadsheet, make 12 columns, call the columns this, and do this. But nobody was actually giving practical advice. There was lots of blah, 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 blah. And you come away and you'd be like, yeah, but what do I actually do?
Yes.
So when I couldn't find a job, I was like, well, I have all this GDPR experience. I'm just going to set up a GDPR business. And I remember having that lovely feeling, thinking, okay, you know what? I can run my own business now. I don't have to be a square peg that fits in a round hole. I'm going to employ people that don't fit the traditional mold. I'm going to create jobs for people like myself. And so I was very excited to set up my own business, and I was doing GDPR and everything. And I actually got to really love GDPR. I even put that phrase out there, I love GDPR, so you don't have to.
And very good. Very, very good.
It's just I'm an optimist, and I will always find the good in something, but I only if I understand the why underneath it.
Yes.
So while I was doing all of that, everybody I was helping, part of GDPR is the DP, data protection. So I was like, okay, we need to look at, how are you protecting your passwords? How are you securing the data? And they had no idea. And they were so at risk with that area. And that's part of GDPR, is protecting your data. So I would go and look online and read all the cybersecurity books and realize there was so much brilliant stuff out there, but it wasn't filtering down to small businesses and regular people.
No.
If you work in a big company, you've got an IT department. Everybody gets sent on security awareness training.
Yes.
But then I found a report that said 90% of the businesses in Ireland are micro businesses, 1 to 10 people. I was like, nobody's talking to those people. And actually, they're probably even more vulnerable. They're the ones that need the most help.
Absolutely, we are. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So this idea was just bubbling away. And then COVID came along. And so you can imagine me trying to sell my GDPR services on top of COVID. I was like the Grim Reaper. You can imagine, it's like, like, who do you want at your party?
Rubbing it in.
Yes. So I applied to New Frontiers, which is the Enterprise Ireland Accelerator Program.
Yes.
And I gave them my idea of CyberPie. And they said, I think I kind of told them it was a bit further along than it was, or I did a good job of selling it. And I got onto the program, and then you kind of, like, it's my whole strategy in life, just say yes and then figure out the details. So then I had to quickly kind of build this app. So I came up with the idea that we don't learn if we get given a whole big list of things to do. It's too much. It's too overwhelming.
Absolutely. You're correct. Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah.
You know that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yes.
And I think with cybersecurity, there's so many things you can do. And actually, a lot of them are small, a lot of them are cheap, a lot of them are quick, but it's just still too many things. So I thought that if I just told somebody one of my clever stories or my hints or my tips or pieces of advice once a week for 5 minutes, over time, all those little bits will build and build and build and build and build until it becomes instinctive, until you get it. Because lots of stuff we can be told once, twice, 3 times. Actually, we need to be told 4, 5, 6 times. And so it was, I came and then I'd been following a product called Beauty Pie, and it was about how they wanted to democratize beauty products and give everybody a piece of the beauty pie and not just the big brands. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give the 90% of these micro businesses a piece of the cybersecurity pie, bring cybersecurity away from all the IT, all the nerdy, all the techie gatekeeping, and make it simple, make it not feel overwhelming, make people feel empowered that they can do it, and demystify it. Because whenever you see cybersecurity, what do you see? That hacker in a hoodie, don't you?
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. That's what they always show.
And they all try and scare the pants off you. And so what do you do when you're scared? You change the channel. When I used to smoke, what did I do when the smoking adverts came on TV? I changed the channel. It's the same thing with cybersecurity. People feel overwhelmed. They feel they can't deal with it. They feel that there's no point because it's just such a big problem. So they don't deal with it. They just...
I've just clicked into your website here, your CyberPie website, just onto the how CyberPie works. And I do notice that what the point you made there, what if you could defend your business from cybercrime in under 5 minutes a week? I noticed you seem to have taken that image, that concept of 5 minutes. So was this idea of yours of just posting something small, an idea every so often for 5 minutes, was that the springboard then for this concept of, all you need to do is just log on for 5 minutes?
That's the thing. And I read a fact that stories are 22% more memorable than facts. So 1 week you may log on and it may just be a story about me telling you about some Russian criminal gang that drive around in Lamborghinis. Yes. And the following week it might be, okay, look, this is the latest WhatsApp scam going around. This is what it looks like. Or the following week, it might be, listen, I found a great app you can put on your phone that will recognize all the scam calls and stop the scam calls. So each week will be one new little piece of knowledge that you need to know. That's it, 5 minutes. So you make the commitment, 5 minutes a week, and trust me, and I know that over time, I will build up your knowledge and your fitness, and you'll do all these little tasks as we go along, and you will be more secure than if you didn't do it, and you won't feel overwhelmed. And if you look at my website, there's not a single scary picture. Even the colors are bright. I almost want to make it feel fun.
Exactly. As you say, there's 60% of small businesses close within 6 months of being hit by cybercrime. So there's a lot of really good information in there. So how do you then, coming at it from this perspective then, where you're saying, look, really all you need to commit to is a small period of time, like 5 minutes. How then do you go to tailoring it to their business?
Okay, so obviously it's still new. So we, until we get more funding and we can, go all singing, all dancing, it is pretty standard. But what we're building out now is, because our market would be professionals who have to secure the data. So people like pharmacists, barristers, accountants, therapists, counselors. So over time, we're going to have, cybersecurity for dentists, cybersecurity for accountants, and it will be customized. But you know what? A lot of it is the same, whether it's your home or your business, whether you're a dentist or a counselor. So much of it is the basics. You all need to do the same thing. We're all using the same, computer. So some of it will be customized, but a lot of it is just breaking it down into simple, basic things that actually anybody can do. You don't need a tech background. You don't need an IT man. You can do it yourself. So it's DIY cybersecurity.
And you're taking the fear out of it by making that point and presenting it that way. As you've mentioned, CyberPie is the app that you've created. It does have a website. And again, I will just put the DP that I'm using behind me here at the end of this interview as well, so that people can actually zoom in and have a look at all of your Twitter handles, Instagram, Facebook handles. But the company that you originally started, was that this one here?
That was Data Influence. And pretty much the same principles, my own personality is, okay, so you need to do GDPR. It's not going away. It doesn't need to be big and scary. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. How can I simplify it? How can we understand that you are not IBM or HPE? You are a small business with one website and, 300 or 400 customers. And so that's what I did, is I helped small businesses do their GDPR just in simple terms. And then obviously training, because when you do GDPR, you have to train all your staff in GDPR and you have to train them in security awareness. That's part of it. So I love the training side, because getting people to kind of come around to my way of thinking in the nicest possible way is my favorite thing to do.
Yes. No, I can quite understand that. You do describe yourself as a rebel and a rule breaker.
Always.
Now, how does that work in this industry?
Well, that's the thing. I have to be very careful, because you're not supposed to be a rebel and a rule breaker. But the thing is, real people are rebels and rule breakers. So you can have a company policy that says on the company laptops, you are not allowed to use any other apps other than the approved company ones. You can't use Canva, you can't use this, you can't use that. But if somebody wants to do something and they want to use an app like that, do you know what? They're going to do it.
Yes.
Aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. So and as a knee-jerk reaction to something else in often cases.
Yeah. So I'm the best person to have that, because I understand how those rebels think. And I think, okay, well, how can we work with them? They need to do this. Let's explain to them that maybe that one's not so great, but if you do this, that will protect you. There's always a way around it. Again, my answer is, the answer is yes, just figure out how. But if you sit there and you say to people, don't do this, you're not allowed to do that, this is, doom and gloom, you switch off, you lose them, and then they just don't, they do it anyway and they go underground. And, in so many companies, you'll have people that are absolutely petrified to report that maybe they clicked on a bad link or their computer's been infected because they think they're going to be fired. And actually, that's the worst thing you can have, because the longer they bury it, the more damage that's been done.
Yes.
Whereas if you've got a company where you almost celebrate when something goes wrong, and you say, how can we learn from this? And let's share it with everybody. People will buy into security. They'll be happy to report it. They'll bring their phone to the IT people and say, listen, I think I've got something dodgy on here. Isn't that better?
Yes, yes, absolutely. When you when you come from an industry such as the one I was in, which would have been the performing arts, and you know, I've had to change my name. Gosh, if only I'd had the vision years ago to realize what a messy job this was going to be. But I remember when I first started in my professional singing career, and I wasn't in Ireland, I was outside Ireland. And of course, with a name like O'Gara, everybody changes it to O'Hara or Magara, or all kinds of different variations on that. It's not as well known a spelling of a name as O'Gara or O'Mara or any of these names. And so you end up with your name spelt incorrectly on lots of different things that you actually were quite proud of, productions, you know, various different articles in newspapers. So you go for a name. I changed my name to something that I suppose the British would find easier to pronounce. And it does, there's a certain amount of pressure to do that. And I was always unhappy about it. And then you change your name back again to your own name. And then if you marry, you might then take on a different name. And after a while, you're saying to yourself, oh, now that we're in this internet age, now that we're in this cybersecurity age, I need to protect my identity. What would your advice be to people like myself and perhaps the younger versions of myself who are starting out in that industry with regard to their name and keeping control and ownership of their own name?
Yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it? You know, if we knew what we knew now, not one of us would be on social media, because still to this day, the most popular passwords are people's children's names, pets' names, etc. Go onto Facebook. Even if you haven't put your date of birth up there, you've posted your 40th birthday party pictures, so you can figure out who the person is, you know, what their age is. You can guess people's passwords based on their business name, their children's names, their pets' names. Most, you know, all the cybercrime, you bring it back down and it will often come back to 9 times out of 10, human error. I think 98% of data breaches are down to human error. And poor passwords. Even in the biggest companies, it's still poor passwords. It's still people just being a bit too free and easy with their information.
See, I worry that I'm not going to remember the new passwords I come up with, or that I will then, you know, in fact, you know, I've it's going to sound ridiculous to people listening, but I've actually taken to writing them on the wall.
Yeah. Okay,
because I will lose the notebook and I will lose the piece of paper, and I could quite easily delete it accidentally from my computer. But I know I have it on that wall. I'm going to look at the wall many times.
No, it depends where your wall is. In my local gym, they had the passwords written in Sharpie on the wall in the gym.
Oh, well, not where the public, yeah, I wouldn't do it exactly. where the people could see them.
And again, there's so much judgment. Like people say, oh, you shouldn't write your passwords down. Well, you would have to be a member of Mensa to remember all of your passwords, if they were big secure ones with numbers and letters and symbols. Personally, I have a little password book. There is nothing wrong with it as long as it's at home and it's not in a big shared office that says passwords. Yeah. Where you would be really at risk is the number of people that would have a spreadsheet with all their passwords. They're very organized. They're very proud of their Excel spreadsheet. It's called passwords and it's stored in the cloud. Yeah. So if somebody got into your system, you've now just given them the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, I won't put anything in the cloud.
Yeah.
Short of some pictures, I won't put anything in.
Yeah. The only way you can really manage passwords now is a password manager. And basically that it's stored differently. So the only password you have to remember is the one for the password manager. So you make that very secure. But then it sets passwords for all your accounts. They're all secure ones. It's linked to your phone and your computer. To get it set up is a little bit of a faff, to be honest. But once you've got it set up, you never have to worry again. And I think on average, they cost about €2-3 a month. There's 3 or 4 main ones: LastPass, 1Password, Dashlane. To be honest, it is the only way. Now, the biggest problem is actually not us, because we're humans. The problem is the password system is nuts. I think when passwords came in, they didn't realize what we would be living with. And they haven't come up with anything better yet. I know they've got lots of things, like they're working on phones where your phone will actually recognize your blueprint. Like if I wake up in the morning, it knows that the first thing I do is check the weather, then I check the tides, then I check my emails. So it's got like a little, it knows my patterns. So if a stranger had my phone, they would do something different and my phone would go, we don't recognize this pattern. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the line. But for now,
that's awkward too, because what about the person who may have been married a few times and, you know, when they're with their children in one locale, their behavior is one way. And then when they're somewhere else, it's different. Maybe on the other side of the world, it's not always able to take into account jumping between country. Let's say you live in India and your lifestyle is one particular way. Let's say you live half the year in the United Kingdom.
And you know, the thing what we have to remember is that cybercrime is a very lucrative business. It is not hackers in hoodies. It is a business. They use things like Dun & Bradstreet for lead generation. They sponsor students to go to university and have apprenticeships.
Really?
Oh yeah, it is a business, and they make a lot of money, and most of the time they don't get caught. So as smart as we get, and we're going to have things like artificial intelligence and machine learning and whatever, so are they.
Yes.
So all you can do is your best. So just like when we go to bed at night, we've got a key, we've got a lock on the front door and we've got a bolt. We make sure the windows are shut. We make sure the side gate is shut. The back door is locked. And all you can do is, it's like an onion. You have layers of security. So good passwords, 2-factor authentication, do your updates. There's a number of little things you can do. So as the person's trying to break in, if they can't get in here, they're going to try here, then they can't get in here. So you put all these deterrents in place and they're going to give up. They're going to go for the easy person who forgot to lock their front door. And so going back to my original ideas, I'm showing you how to close up all the holes that you can close up, because there's actually a lot you can do.
Yes.
And that's all you can do. You have to take a pragmatic approach. And then you say, well, okay, we've done the best we can. And then on the other side is, what if they did break in? And you're like, well, let's make sure everything's backed up. Then if the worst happens, you've got backups.
Yeah. And what, with regard to backup, how is that evolving? I remember backup used to be simply put everything on a USB stick. Now it's use data drives.
Yeah.
Now it's what? Where are we going with backup now?
They certainly say that you should have it backed up in at least 2 or 3 places. So you could back up onto a device like a hard drive or a USB, and you back up onto the cloud. And, I know a chap that he does it for all the dentists and doctors, and it's done automatically. So every night it's backed up. Every morning they get a little email saying, your backup was done. And if anything were to go wrong, they just phone up Brian, and Brian, everything's gone wrong. And he says, no problem, I'll just restore it. So you back up in 2 places. And, one is done automatically, and one you have to set yourself a reminder, do it once a week.
And do you provide that service as well? Is that something that you can advise people on?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what I do, is I find all the gadgets and things. So now today I'm very excited because I've been trying one on my phone. So again, all these scam callers, everybody's getting them.
Gosh, yeah.
So I've been testing one, and it's free, and it's from Malwarebytes Mobile Security. So I put it on my phone, and today I've had 4 or 5 of these stupid calls, and it actually comes up on the thing that says scam caller. And so I just don't answer it. Simple as that.
Oh,
And it's free. So, you know, that's the thing is I'll go and find the good stuff and I'll bring it back.
yes. So follow this lady, folks. Follow Andrea Manning. Absolutely fantastic data influence, or data, depending on whether you're American or British, and CyberPie. Now, the CyberPie app offers what exactly?
So basically you pay €15 a month and it's like a subscription. So once a week, you will get a weekly slice from me. So it will come in as an email and you click onto it and it takes you to your dashboard and you're going to have a 2-minute video from me. And either I will be telling you my latest find, as in I've got this great new app, this is what it does, or I will tell you, listen, when last did you update your Google settings? Time to update your Google settings, do this, do this, do this, do this. And there'll be always a print version and a video version. And then I'll say, bye, see you next week. And so each week, I've got a little plan how I take you, you know, all different areas of your life, you know, secure your Facebook account today, or disconnect all those Facebook games that you connected 2 years ago. That
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I'll show you how to do that. And so if you just do, I mean, not everybody's going to do them every week, but I like to think it's like digital osmosis. If I'm knocking on your door once a week, already you're thinking differently, yes. You're thinking about security and you're feeling better. Because when I was interviewing everybody to try and find out if this would work, they all did this. They were like, yeah, it's gnawing away. I know I should be doing something, but I don't know what.
Yes.
So I'm saying, don't worry about it. I'm telling you what to do, and it'll only have to be 5 minutes a week. So you have this little dashboard.
That is fantastic. So you'll find out what the what is, and we just basically listen to you. And
then, you know, people will tell you, oh, you need a VPN. And you're like, what the hell is a VPN?
Yes.
In the app, there'll be an example of what is a VPN. And they'll say, well, these are the 3 VPNs. How much do they cost? Do I need one? Blah, blah, blah. You know, what's a password manager? What's the best one? So there'll be a library of resources in there as well.
And I still have, you know, people around me saying, don't worry, your basic protection is still good enough. So do I go with Norton? Do I go with AVG? You know, what do I, you know, and sometimes you've got all these prompts coming up, but you don't know whether or not they are as good as what you already have.
I know. And you know what, there's too many of them. And
yes,
they're not as safe as they used to be, because even they can't keep up now. You know, the rate of cybercrime is insane. As soon as coronavirus hit, I think there was something like I don't know, I can't even think of the number, but thousands and thousands and thousands of new websites were registered with the word COVID or Corona in as scam websites. Then as soon as the vaccine was out, thousands and thousands and thousands of new websites were registered with the vaccine in the URL to try and scam you. There is always going to be a new thing. So like it goes back to those layers of security. You've got to have a lot of different things, but it can feel overwhelming. And if you go and look on the internet, sometimes what you think is a solution is actually another scam, and you land up downloading something even worse. So
and they are so perfect looking.
Yeah,
you know, they draw you in, and you're almost, I know I get very worried when I see something that appeals to me too directly. It's almost like there's no such thing as a free lunch. It's way too attractive for me, and then I start looking at it in more detail and I wonder, is this right? Is this a scam? And I've become, unfortunately, I've become too guarded now.
Yeah, and that's the problem as well. So now we're scared to click on anything.
Well, this is what happens. So someone like you is extremely important. So folks, if you are concerned, if you are worried, if you feel totally at sea on this issue, as I do, Andrea Manning, get onto her data influence website. It's datainfluence.ie.
Yeah, and
I have them up here on the screen, datainfluence.ie and www.cyber-pie.com. Now, if people want to download the app, can they download the app for CyberPie from both the websites?
No, it's just from the CyberPie website, and you just, there's a 2-week free trial. You just log in, you don't have to put your credit card details in, and then if you're happy to continue, you put your card in, and once a week just comes through. You can cancel at any point you want. but it's peace of mind. And you know, if you think €15 a month, what that is compared to you having your business taken over, or you know, a lot of people will have like an Instagram account where they've got 20, 30,000 followers, and then they have their account taken over and they blackmail to try and get it back.
Yes.
You know, you can't put a value on that.
No, you can't. You can't. That is very, very important. And particularly if you've got big, chunky shows, like I've got now so many shows, I'm so worried about that kind of a hack happening. And just can I ask you one other thing before I forget? Are women targeted differently in your opinion?
Okay, when it comes to the big cybercrime, honestly, they have automated programs. So just say they've heard, like lots of people will have a WordPress website and you have all these plugins on WordPress. So now there'll be one of the plugins that's got a vulnerability. So the scammers go, okay, well, let's just search the internet, and they just do a swoop of every WordPress website on the internet to see if any of them have got that hole that they can get in. Then they can take over somebody's website. So it's not targeted. It's just a numbers game. So they'll try 20,000 websites, and if they get 5, they've got 5. It's the same with the phishing emails. They'll send out 10,000 of them, but if one person clicks, that's all they need to do. So it's not really targeted. With something like the HSE attack, that was planned. There was a whole, you know, they went after it specifically. They did their research. But unfortunately, with small businesses and small people, it's a numbers game.
So in your opinion, if you were to offer then, let's say, 3 pieces of advice to the small business person, and something that is maybe of immediate concern between now and Christmas, let's say, when things will get very busy again online, and with regard to websites and social media, what would you be thinking of? What's the first thing that would come to
The very first thing is your password. So if you're on any of your password systems will do it, but like on Google, you can go to Google security settings, and it will actually go through all your passwords, and it will tell you which ones are insecure, which ones have been reused, which ones have been used in a breach. If you're using the same password in more than one place, you're at risk. Or if you're using a password that's a dictionary word, because they will just run it through a dictionary program, they'll guess it. So you have to have strong passwords and unique passwords on every single account. Your most important account is your email, because you know, when you forget your password and you ask for a password reset, they send it through to your email. So if I got into your email, I could take over your whole life.
It's scary.
So you guard your email password with your life. Your email password should be your strongest one, and it should have the 2-factor authentication. So if somebody tries to reset it, you get a message to your phone that says, you know, so your email is your strongest one.
And how often would you recommend we change our passwords in that case?
You don't need to change it unless you've got reason to believe that something has happened. Because if you keep changing it, you've got more reason to write it down and to use easy to remember ones.
Yes.
So
but if they have got in, let's say someone has cracked your email and you spot that something's not right. If you then go to change the password, can they not counter that? Is there some way that they can, does it still work that you can change your password?
It depends how they've got in, and you'd have to get somebody to help you with it. But yes, the first step is to change your password and to run a scan on your computer. Again, I use Malwarebytes. It's free. And, you know, even if you just got a vague suspicion, oh, I visited a dodgy website, oh, maybe I shouldn't have clicked on that, run a scan and just make sure that everything is clean.
Yes.
So there's a website called haveibeenpwned.com. It's have, you know, the word have I been, and then pwned.com, haveibeenpwned.com. And you can go and put your email address in there, and it will tell you if your email address has been used in come out in any of these breaches. Now, with your password, if you go there and you find that it has, as long as you change the password, you're fine. But if you didn't change the password, you're in trouble.
Yes. So will that site also tell you that someone has attempted to hack your account? They may not necessarily have succeeded.
Yeah, no, it won't tell you that, but it will just tell you that your credentials are for sale on the internet and every second scammer in the world has them.
Oh my gosh, that's a valuable piece of advice. Again, particularly for the small business and micro business person. Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very valuable.
So my next piece of advice, and this is unique to me, nobody else gives this piece of advice, and I like to call it my old fart advice. If you are doing something like making a bank payment or entering your details into something or updating anything, do it on the big computer.
Yes.
Don't do it on your phone. Because when you get an email on your phone, you can't see the full email address. You can't see the full URL. You can't check if the website is secure. You're multitasking. It's much easier when you're on a big screen. When you're making a payment or changing details or something like that, do it on your big computer.
Yes.
You're more likely to spot when something's a bit off.
Yes, very, very good advice. And I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
And you know,
as we start to get older, we're not always able to spot things, you know, sometimes even on our laptops or on our large monitors. But you just are reducing your risk, aren't you?
And if anybody changes their bank details with you, don't take it at face value. Find the number that you know you have for them, not the one they've given you. Phone them up and say, did you change your bank details? Are these your bank details? Because that's a famous scam. And you'll get an email from the accounts department saying, we're just updating our bank details. A month later, you go to pay the invoice to the new bank details that you input at the time. And the payment doesn't arrive at the person. Or even it's happened, people send invoices by PDF and the email is intercepted. And so when the invoice gets to the client, the bank details have been changed. So then the client pays into the wrong bank account.
Oh, oh, isn't it just frightening? Isn't it frightening? Well, thank goodness there are people like yourself around who have got the know-how, who have the nous to actually look at what's going on, what's a danger in the coming months. And
there
absolutely
is so much
wonderful.
You can do, there really is. And I say a lot of it is actually free and doesn't take very much time. You know, very little of this is high tech or needs a tech person, just little things, and they will make the world of difference.
From the point of view of yourself and your own business, how have you found the last 16, 17 months, particularly in the pandemic?
Well, I say I started with, you know, the Grim Reaper being Mrs. GDPR.
Yes.
And all my customers and clients would have been beauty salons, gyms, hairdressers, nursing homes, basically everybody that would have been affected by COVID. And I think for most people for a couple of months, I just sort of spun around in circles thinking, oh dear, what the hell am I going to do? Yes. But I think the sooner you realize that we were never going back to normal, that things were going to change, so we had to change.
Yes.
I think people have become more understanding. I love the fact that when you're on a Zoom, you now see somebody's cat's bumhole passing by. You know,
the tail.
It's just made things so much more normal, because before I was a single mom and I would always have to kind of pretend to be on my game when actually I was pulling my hair out with a toddler under the desk, but you always had to pretend that that wasn't happening.
Yeah. So
I think it's lovely that that's changed now. We've all recognized we're all humans.
Yes. Yeah.
We've had to be more inventive. And I say, like with the cybersecurity side, you know, things like a pharmacist, they never had to take their business online. A physiotherapist never had to take their business online. Now they're doing physiotherapy sessions on Zoom. So
unthinkable before.
Yeah, barristers would never have gone online. They were
confidentiality breaches. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm helping all those people because they need to be secure online. But you can do a lot more online. And I've met more people this way than I would have in real life. I wouldn't have gone to so many events or so many fabulous conferences or whatever. So it goes back to that, me being an optimist. After having a bit of a spin around, then I found all the good. And then I made it work for me.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. And what an incredible optimist you are too, because you can even, I don't know about you, but I certainly hear a lot of my colleagues saying that since we've had to transfer to either podcasting or teaching or training or coaching online, it's wonderful, but it does take a lot more effort sometimes because you are very aware that the person is on the other side. At the same time, if you've got someone who is very positive and who is upbeat, life is so much easier working through the medium of online or Zoom or whatever of the mediums or platforms you use when you're working today online. So really, everybody, if you need help in this area, get in touch with Andrea Manning. You can see how easy it is to deal with her. And she's very professional. Most importantly, she knows her business. She knows her business. I don't know this business, and I would need someone like her. And I'm pretty sure everybody else will too. So Andrea Manning, thank you so much for coming on Business Block. She is a Women's Inspire Network member. And just before we leave, I'd like to ask you, Andrea, how long have you been a member of Women's Inspire and how have you found it?
My sister dragged me along to a conference about 2 or 3 years ago because she was a member. And I didn't want to go, and I was like, I don't do these kind of things. And I loved every minute of it. And I met so many great people. And that was when I was in that, like, oh, what am I going to do with my life phase?
Yes.
And then as soon as I set up in business, I was like, oh my God. And then I realized that Sam and I had been talking on that, but I actually had forgotten to join, that she was just treating me like a member. So I was like, oh my God, I have to pay you. So I joined up, and I have had so many opportunities, from press opportunities to people who've answered questions that I needed answering, to all the members giving me help with research for my business. So it's been fabulous. You need those networks. You can't do it on your own.
Oh, absolutely. And there are very few really, really good ones out there. And Samantha Kelly, she is the tweeting goddess. She created this about 10 years ago, and it is very much led from the top down. You know, she's in no way a lazy boss. She is someone who's constantly looking to add value to the Women's Inspire Network, and added value then, of course, consequently trickling down to her members. So I too have found it absolutely wonderful. And she is really a wonderful influencer. And you yourself, Andrea, are being recognized now as a female influencer in cyber protection, which is so great. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to hear. We haven't heard about too many women doing this before, but you are reaching out to where there are a lot of women in business, small business and micro business. And that's wonderful. And do you think that now is your niche?
100%. When I was, again, like trying to find my way, I was listening to all these podcasts, and I listened to one, and it was an American one, and they said, you need to find something that sizzles your bacon. And you know, when I found cybersecurity, I was like, oh my God, this sizzles my bacon. Like literally, I will read books about it for pleasure. Yes. I listen to podcasts about it for pleasure. I love finding the fixes and sharing them, and I'm never going to get bored because there's always something new and something happening. So I have found what sizzles my bacon, which just then makes everything easy.
Well, that's great. And we have found you now as well, which is so important. So please get on those websites, datainfluence.ie and cyber-pie.com. Andrea Manning, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
Everybody, I'll see you next week. We have Women's Inspire members on a Monday, and then on Thursdays, other local, national and international business on Business Block. So tune in on those 2 days, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.